welcome back to my channel. It's your boy Ish, and today's video is going to be very different from anything you've seen in the past on my channel before. But before we go forward, don't mind this big ass fucking mountain I have on my face, okay? Like, I know it's there, so we all get it, okay? And I am so sorry that I've just been so stressed out lately, you know? It's just a lot of things kind of going on in my life. But I know none of you give a shit about that. I just wanted to let you guys know that I know I have a big ass mountain on my face, you know? And it's fine. We all freaking get it, okay? Alright, let's move on. Alright, so now we're gonna get serious because today's video is actually really dark and really unsettling. So for real guys, if you guys are not okay with hearing graphic stuff or like things about murder and blood and things like that, I highly suggest that you don't finish watching this video because it's going to contain some really not easy to take in information. These are true stories that have actually happened, and these are real crimes. And if you are not for any of that, you need to not watch this video because it's not for you. For everybody else that does want to hear more about this and want to know exactly who I'm going to be talking about, then let's get into it. So today's subject is going to be Joseph E Duncan III. Our subject is currently serving time in federal prison and is on death row. I believe he's about 55 years old right now. So what landed him pretty much in death row is the Groene family murders and kidnappings. And then there's some other crimes, additional crimes, which we will get into later because this man is just... okay, so most of what we know about what happened on this particular day and the couple of weeks after that are because of one of the victims herself who lived to tell about it, Shasta Groene, who was 9 years old at the time, and she was the youngest of her family. She had two older brothers, Dylan and Slate, and then she also lived with her mother and her mother's boyfriend, Mark, who... They were all present at the time, and on this day, Shasta remembers her mother calling her into the living room, and she remembers seeing a man wearing black gloves and holding a gun. This man ended up taking Shasta and her brother Dylan and putting them in his car, so they didn't necessarily witness what happened next, but they definitely heard it, which is just as bad. But inside the house, this man zip-tied Brenda, the mother, her boyfriend Mark, and her oldest son Slate, hands behind their back with zip ties, and continued to bash their heads in with a hammer. Slate, the older brother, was actually able to escape and ran out of the house, covered in blood, screaming, and Shasta remembers seeing her brother run out of the house, but then Joseph came and dragged him back inside and killed him. And the way that they discovered the house and the bodies was, oh my gosh, just something that was really unsettling to watch and to listen to the police officers describe the scene. And there were blood on the walls, and this smell of death is what they kept saying about it. And there was this particular stench. And I guess if you work in the police department or whatever it is, then you know what that means. And I can only imagine, you know, what these officers must have felt going into this house and seeing what they saw, and it's truly heartbreaking. An Amber Alert was quickly issued out when they could not find the two youngest kids, Shasta and her brother Dylan. This went on for several weeks where they were looking for them and they were trying to figure out who could have done this, and the police were trying to find leads, and they were trying to do the best they could to be able to find Shasta and her brother alive and well and bring them back to reunite them with their father. And unfortunately that was not the case, and that's not how things were going to go down. This man who kidnapped Shasta and her brother Dylan took them to a remote location where he repeatedly abused them sexually, physically, and really just tortured these poor kids. I don't understand how a human being could put themselves in such a situation where they're gonna first off, murder a family, murder a mother, her child, and then kidnap these other children, and oh, it's just so sick beyond words. Like, I can't even. Alright. Throughout the next several weeks, and it was about 7 weeks in total, that this man had these kids kidnapped. And in her interview, Shasta revealed that this man was being particularly meaner with her brother Dylan. And one day, when they were in the woods, they were in a remote campsite. Shasta remembers hearing a gunshot, and she turned around and realized that Dylan had been shot. And this man started freaking out, was saying that it was an accident, and then she describes feeling so in shock that she didn't know how to react, and she felt kind of frozen. And she said that this continued on for days, that even after this man cold-bloodedly murdered her brother, shot him, and then shot him again to put him out of his misery, she didn't know how to handle this. Like, this was something that was just so traumatic. Like, I don't know how this girl was able to find the strength to hold on and to be able to look forward to another day and have hope, because this man even went on to brag about murdering her family, her mother, the boyfriend, and her older brother, and then finally Dylan, you know, and it was truly heartbreaking. And there is also surveillance footage of Shasta and this man at a, I think, convenience store or gas station. So sad, because sometimes we see people in public and we don't know, you know, what could really be going on. And there were a lot of witnesses that have come out since she's been found, and we'll get into that in a second, and have said that, you know, they had suspicions that she looked like this girl on this Amber Alert, but they didn't say anything because she wasn't acting weird, or there wasn't anything, I guess, necessarily that was like a red flag for them. And it's just, man, it's heartbreaking, really heartbreaking to think about that. We never know. We come across people every single day, and we don't know what they're going through. We don't know if they're victims to a kidnapping or something like that, you know. And then on July 2nd, which was about 7 weeks after the murder of her family, Shasta was recognized, thank God, by somebody at a Denny's, and I believe she was a waitress, who called the police, and she let them know that there was this girl at her restaurant that looked a lot like the girl that was missing. And then the police came, and he was arrested on site, and that's pretty much how he got caught, which is really crazy, because imagine if that waitress hadn't have done anything. And this was in the early mornings. I think it was like around 7 in the morning. And this woman, you know, who she just had this gut feeling that something wasn't right about this man and this child. And thankfully, I'm so glad that she was able to call the police department and let them know about what was going on and who she was seeing. And she said that she spoke to the girl, that he kind of like gave her permission to like talk to her, and even told her name. So I guess from there is when she realized, like, I know exactly who this is. You know, after he was arrested, the police had hoped that they were going to find Dylan alive and well, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. And on July 4th, just 2 days later, they actually found Dylan's remains at a remote campsite near the Lolo National Forest. So that was just this big crime that this man did that pretty much landed him to be arrested and apprehended and charged with all these different accounts of kidnapping and murder. And it's crazy because this man has been charged by 3 different courts. The first being the Idaho District Court for the kidnapping and murders of Brenda, which is the mother, Mark, her boyfriend, and her older son, Slate, who was only 13 at the time that he was murdered, and the mother was about 40 years old, and the boyfriend was 37. So they were fairly young, you know, and they had the rest of their lives to live. And this man who acted out of pure, oh my God, just, I don't even know, like, what drove him to want to do such a thing, you know. And it's really uneasy, guys. And then the second one was the United States District Court for the District of Ohio for the kidnapping of Shasta and Dylan Groene, and also for the murder of Dylan, who was only 9 years old at the time. And finally, he was convicted by a third court, California Superior Court, for the kidnapping and murder of a young boy. And that brings us to another crime, which was connected to Duncan after he was arrested for the kidnapping of Shasta and the murder of her family. So he had done previous crimes in the past before he did this crime that led him to be arrested. And that brings us to Anthony Martinez, a 10-year-old boy who went missing in California on April 4th, 1997. A lot of bloggers actually realized that his mugshot looked a lot like sketches from a kidnapping. And when they compared the two, they realized that they looked a lot similar and realized that it was potentially him, and eventually with DNA testing they were actually able to confirm that it was him, and he actually also confessed to this later on. So this man actually approached a group of kids one day asking for help to find a missing cat. And when the group of kids refused, this man actually grabbed one of the kids, who ended up being Anthony Martinez, who was 10 years old at the time, grabbing him at knife point and threw him in his car and kidnapped him. And after a 2-week search, the decomposing body of this young boy was found nude in Indio, California on April 19th, 1997. There were also 2 additional murders of 2 young girls who were aged 11 and 9 who went missing on July 6th, 1996. So this would pretty much put this crime before the others chronologically. Sorry, can't even speak. But these 2 young girls went missing after they were seen leaving the Crest Motel in Seattle. Their remains were later found on February 10th, 1998 in Bothell, Washington. These stories really just broke my heart when I read them. And when I watched the interviews, I could not believe that a man did this, and it was so sick. And I'm glad that he's apprehended and he's being charged with everything. Like I said, I didn't believe in death row, the death penalty, but I think there are exceptions, truly, because that's some horrendous stuff. Yeah, that's pretty much it for today's video. I wanted to share this with you guys, and yeah, just let you guys know that there are very dark souls out there, and to be careful and to be a little more aware of your surroundings and who you come across and people that you see. Alright guys, so on that note, I'm gonna end today's video because that was really disturbing. And for those of you that made it to the end of the video, thank you for watching. Remember to spread love, not hate. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, guys, of course, and hit that little bell notification because that really helps me, and it lets you guys know when I upload a new video, because YouTube really kind of is just going through something right now. I don't really know, but yeah, feel free to follow me on everything else. I'll put all the stuff in the description, and yeah, let me know if there are other cases that you want me to cover, like different people on death row. I do have a list of people that we're going to be getting into. Next week is going to be very interesting, and I think a lot of you are going to know about next week's video. You guys are going to know who I'm going to be talking about, because it's something that's sort of fairly recent, and yeah, we'll get into that. I'll let you guys watch it when it comes out, and yeah, so I'm going to go, and do you guys spread love and not hate, like I just said, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. You want what you want.